And a pleasant good afternoon to you and to yours, and welcome to the Brevard Sports Network. Alan Slaughter-Zinski with you on this fine, beautiful Thursday here in the 3-2-1. And welcome to what I hope will be the beginning of something new here on Brevard Sports Network. Now, obviously, we're pushing up against the summertime, so we're going to get this rolling now and continue it in the fall, and of course, moving forward all year next year. This is the Gators Report, and we'd like to thank Chrissy Lindbeck, the real estate expert, for sponsoring today's episode. And the first thing I think of when I think of the Florida Gators now isn't football, basketball, baseball. The first thing I now think of when I think of the Florida Gators is Jackson Robb. And of course, Jackson is doing an absolutely amazing job up at Florida. You're going to see some pictures on your screen, and I'm going to have him kind of fill us in on what's been going on. But Jackson's been doing a lot in a hurry. I'm going to ask him about that sports lab coat too. Last weekend, he was on the radio call of the Florida Gators spring game, which is incredible, absolutely incredible that a freshman would be given an opportunity to do something like that. And, of course, Jackson is the pride of Brevard Sports Network. He is the pride of Brevard County when it comes to journalism and broadcasting. And we all know how bright his future is. And, of course, here, that's one of my favorite shots right there. And here, and right here on your screens on this beautiful Thursday, my man, Jackson Robb. Jackson, welcome back. Welcome home, I should say, via remote communication. But welcome back. And Jackson, it's great to have you back on. And we'll be talking Florida Gators sports coming up. But kind of get us caught up, my man, on what's going on in the life of Jackson Robb. What's going on, Riker Hall. What's life like at Riker Hall, man?
It's not bad. Yeah, it's good to be back. It's been a while watching from the sidelines on BSN nowadays, but no, it's good. I mean, freshman year wrapping up, which is crazy to say, but definitely getting involved, staying involved with sports and everything, and just kind of living the college life right now and getting ready for summertime as well here.
For those that don't know, Jackson, kind of set your schedule a little bit for us. I know you go on the air frequently on the radio there. I've seen you with Kevin Winter. Kevin, just an unbelievable professional in the industry. Kind of take us through your schedule a little bit, bud. When can we look forward to listening, seeing, or hearing you?
Yeah, well, I do radio updates every week, every other week for one of my classes, which is just like Sports Center updates. So I should be doing that later on today, on WRUF, which is pretty much everything I'm on is on ESPN Gainesville. Also, the Sports Lab show, like you mentioned, I'm sure we'll get into, but that's something that I'll be on a lot more in the fall with my second semester in the program. But for now, it's every once in a while getting on the radio, sports talk show. But for now, it's just those quick radio updates and that, and then hopefully some more play-by-play and stuff in the fall.
You and I used to talk about radio, and I can remember you as a 15-year-old kid, and I said, Jackson, you gotta have to embrace radio. And the look on your face at that particular point in time was like, what is this old man talking about? Radio is a dead entity. I'll never forget it as long as I live. And I just kind of chuckled and I said, well, he'll find out. But kind of take me through what do you like about the radio aspect of this?
No, I mean, it's fun. I mean, it's simple. It's simple journalism in a way. I mean, when you get into play-by-play, it's actually harder. But, talk about sports talk and stuff like that. I mean, you're definitely right. I mean, everything starts with radio and writing, the two things that I didn't do a lot of before I left, and now that's all I'm doing. But, radio is just fun. I mean, it's simple. You just talk. You don't have to worry about how you look. You don't have to worry about really anything besides what you're saying and just make sure it sounds good. So, but yeah, it's just like we used to do, but just no cameras, no live streams, just talking.
The funniest damn thing I thought, Jackson, was when you sent me a text one week. I mean, this was a couple of weeks into your freshman year, and you said, you're not going to believe this. And I said, what? You're like, I got my first assignment today. And I was all excited to hear what your assignment was and tell everybody what you had texted me.
Well, the first game I ever did for when I got up here was high school volleyball. play-by-play volleyball on the radio. So,
Yeah, we just both kind of got a chuckle out of that, and it is so awesome, man, to see you come full circle and come back here, kind of remotely come home here and discussing sports. How did you pick up the gig for the spring game, my friend? Because that's not something people just hand out.
no, I mean that's a good case of networking. You got to know some people, and I've met a lot of good people in the program so far this year. And one of the guys actually runs the play-by-play network for the students here. So I've just talked to him, expressed my interest and stuff. So he reached out, me and another kid who also wasn't full time on the network, just to kind of give us, I'm guessing, some sort of tryout. But just texted me and said it was the Tuesday before the game or Wednesday. And he was just, hey, you want to do the spring game? I was like, I mean, yeah, that's
Of course,
a
I do.
guarantee. So yeah, so that was pretty much it. From that point, it was just kind of communicating with him and the other people there to help us set up and do prep and everything. But it was that simple. Just, hey, you want to do this? I was like, yep, let's do it, and just showed up and did it.
Jackson, we'll end in terms of your experience with this. I've got some great interns now. I love them. They're not Jackson Robbs. I've got Colton Freeze from Cape Coast Spotlight. I've got Greeley Cogden, who's doing some baseball with me. What piece of advice would you offer up to people here locally that are going to want to send me a message and say, "Hey, I want to do what Jackson's doing"? What would you tell them?
I think first, just say yes to everything. I mean, especially starting out at the high school level too. I mean, there's a lot of sports you don't know. There's a lot of people you don't know. You kind of just got to take every opportunity. I mean, reps, that's the biggest thing you'll hear from me now and really any person anywhere that wants to give you advice in this business, but it's just reps. Whatever you can do, just do it. I mean, if it sounds like it might not be fun, doesn't matter. You just got to do it. So at the end of the day, reps are huge, and just prepare. Don't just show up and think that you know it all. It's good to just be prepared, know what you're doing, but yeah, just say yes to everything and it'll get you far.
All right, here with Jackson Robb, University of Florida Gator freshman, former BSN Satellite High standout. All right, Jackson, this is going to be the Gators report moving forward, so let's get into it. I want to go back to basketball because obviously the Florida Gators men's basketball team were the national champions, defending national champions coming into this year. They lose to Iowa in that second round there, and you look at this season and 27-8, 16-2 in conference play, 14-1 at the O-Dome. I was asked the question, did I think that Florida had a successful year despite what some would say is an early exit in the tournament? So I'm going to pose the same question to you. Did the Florida Gators men's basketball team have a successful season?
I would say from an objective standpoint, yes. I mean, you got to look at the accolades. You got to look at statistically one of the best seasons in Gators basketball history. I would say from a fan lens and just as someone as a student here, for me subjectively, that's not the way I think. For me, if you're the national champion and you don't even make it back to the second weekend, for me, it's a letdown. I wouldn't say it's a failure or a disappointment. I mean, at the end of the day, it was a great season. SEC regular season champs, had a lot of big accolades, but it just felt like something was missing. It felt like they could have done more. This team had, I mean, it was hot and cold at times. The start of the year was slow, fell out of the top 25 entirely, then rallied back to be a 1 seed. And then right kind of when the moment was the biggest, they lose to Vanderbilt big in the SEC tournament, rebound against the 16 seed. And then the Iowa game just kind of felt like it encompassed the whole season where they showed the flashes that this was a team that could repeat. And I wouldn't say it's a disappointment if you don't repeat alone or don't even make the Final Four, but just the way that it ended just leaves such a bitter taste, at least in my mouth. But I just know at the end of the day, especially just look at this program, though. I mean, this is one of the best seasons overall in program history, but just the way it ended, it feels like for a team that was a 1 seed, was trying to defend a national title, that it just feels underwhelming when it was all said and done.
What stood out to you for this team this year, for Coach Golden and the Florida Gators? What did you really like about their season?
I think for me, it was just the way they could rebound and really just right the ship. I mean, after the first month, I think there was one point where we were just one game above 500, and I was nervous. I mean, people were talking about, can we still make the Final Four? I was talking about, can we still make the round of 64 at that point? Like there was genuine concern. But after that, I mean, 3-point shooting, everyone wanted to say this team couldn't shoot. Then through SEC play, we're shooting a much more respective clip. And all the big issues that we're seeing back in November in the non-conference slate were pretty much fixed through most of SEC play. So I think the resilience of this team was what impressed me most, because it seemed like it was kind of dead in the water from the start and ended up being a 1 seed again, and being SEC regular season champs and really fixing a lot of the issues they had early on. And some of those ended up showing up in Tampa against Iowa, unfortunately. But for the bulk of the season, this team really did right the ship after a slow start, didn't really get rattled by certain losses like Auburn and SEC play that ended a winning streak, came back and rattled off, I think, 10 in a row after that. So I just think the resilience of this year's team, which really just shows, I think it's one of the better coaching seasons Todd Golden's had, just to really turn things around, get this team to gel, because the guard play early on was just not where it needed to be. And by the end of the season, Boogie Flynn and Xavier Lee were looking night and day better. So for me, it was just the rebound from the first games to the end.
Yeah, I thought that first game of the year, honestly, against Arizona back then, could be a potential Final Four preview. But I mean, it was for maybe Arizona, but the Gators just didn't get past that. Now, Jackson, 12 hours after the college basketball season ended, there were over 2,000 players already in the transfer portal. Where do the Florida Gators stand? As far as I know, you guys do this awesome segment on the Sports Lab when a player goes into the portal. I kind of chuckle because I like the way you guys approach that. But kind of take me through who's already gone.
Yeah, so for Florida, at least just to the portal, Olivier Ryu, the 7'9" player, is in the portal. Micah Hanlockton as well, our backup center, but he is still searching for a waiver. He's one of the guys that is out of eligibility, trying to play another year, but he is in the portal as well. Outside of that, I believe it's just Xavier Lee, who graduated, that we're losing. The only player they brought in is Denzel Aberdeen, which is a crazy story in and of itself. Former Gator for 3 years, transferred out to Kentucky last year, wants to come back. But he's another guy that, I mean, this is just a mark of the modern times of college basketball. But again, out of eligibility, transferring, hoping that he can even play another year. So from the acquisition front, Aberdeen's the only one so far for Florida, and haven't had too many big losses to the portal outside of Micah Hanlockton.
Ruben Cheney Lou had a great year. Picked up some awards, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. National Defensive Player of the Year, which he was, I mean, he was just dominant down low. I mean, rebound, double machine for a lot of the season. So it was really cool to see that, just because, it was up in the air all year. People saying that he was the best defensive player in the country. And I know there's this clip that ESPN showed a million times against Alabama when Ruben went up against, I think, 3 of their guards defensively, and just locked all of them down and ended up forcing a turnover. So, yeah, it was a great season for him, kind of out of nowhere, because everyone wants to talk about Thomas Houck, Alex Condon, and the 2 big transfers up top coming into this year. And Ruben just kind of flew under the radar and really blew up.
All right. Anything from winter sports that other than basketball, that really stood out to you that we need to talk about?
Yeah, I definitely think I would say basketball was the biggest thing. I mean, women's basketball got a new head coach coming up next year, but outside of that, I mean, when it's winter around here, it's just men's basketball all the time.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Here with Jackson Robb, University of Florida. Jackson, let's shift gears here to the spring, and obviously, when you're talking spring, we'll get to baseball and even softball in a minute, because softball's having a great year as well, top 10 nationally ranked team. But obviously, the attention, once the weather warms a little bit up in Gainesville, turns to spring football and John Sumrall's first spring game. And the spring game was last Saturday. Aaron Philo and Trammell Jones. It seems like to me, Jackson, that for ever and a day, it's been during the spring game, which quarterbacks is going to be. The situation was settled over the last couple of years. Florida thought they had their man, and then the whole world changed. So the floor is yours, my friend. Assess what you've seen from Sumrall so far, practices leading up to and including that spring game on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, on campus alone, I mean, it's John Sumrall. I think everyone here loves the guy. I mean, personality-wise, he's what you want as a Florida head coach. But Got to see results first before you can really write the book on Summerall. But I think it's been a good start, especially just with the way that he's been received by the UF community and everything. But yeah, I mean, definitely the headline of the spring game was the quarterback competition, and that's been the noise all offseason because the coaches, I don't think they're bluffing when they say they don't have a starter named yet. They're still trying to figure it out. I mean, Aaron Philo came in with new offensive coordinator Buster Faulkner from Georgia Tech. He backed up Haynes King last season, now trying to come in and earn the starting job. But Tramel Jones is very talented in his own right. Showed that last year in his limited minutes behind DJ Lagway. And I mean, he's athletic. I mean, he's a guy that can really make plays coming off now as a redshirt freshman. And I think the vibe was just that it was going to be Aaron Philo, and that's how it was going to be. As the transfer has the connection with the OC, but throughout camp and especially in the spring game last week, I was very impressed with Tramel Jones. And I honestly think, as we stand right now at the end of spring, heading into the summer, I think Tramel Jones is the lead guy in this quarterback competition, just from what I saw in the spring game and what I've heard out of camp. And, Aaron Philo has the skills, but just Tramel Jones has been putting on the show. He did outperform Aaron Philo pretty much 1-to-1 in that spring game on reps. He had, I think, the same amount of yards on less attempts, had 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. Philo with 2 interceptions, both in the first half. And so, from that, definitely still going to be an open book. I think that the coaches said, John Summerall said after the spring game, that he was going to have a sit down with the quarterbacks and at least tell them where they stand on that, but that wasn't going to be made available to the media. And that's something that realistically we probably won't know until maybe a week or two before that game against FAU in September to start the season. So the speculation will go on for much longer. But outside of the quarterbacks, I mean, the running back room is pretty solid. Jaden Ball is going to be that lead workhorse, and that's what we knew coming into the season. That kind of went without saying. But the wide receiver core, I think, is one that's really put the nation on notice so far and is one that people should know. I think it's one of the most talented units in the country. Dallas Wilson leading it, Vernell Brown the third, both now in their second season. Wilson, a redshirt freshman, VB3. Vernell Brown is a sophomore. But some of the transfers they brought in, Bailey Stockton from Georgia Tech, making some impacts. Eric Singleton from Auburn, as well as a guy, Micah Mays Jr. from Wake Forest. And he's a guy that nobody was really talking about to that spring game. But I have been hearing from some of my friends that cover the football team and people that I know closer to the program, and that Micah Mays was a guy that people need to keep an eye on. Lo and behold, he goes for over 100 yards, has a 75-yard touchdown reception in that spring game, and ends up being one of the players of the game for the Gators offense. So Micah Mays Jr., another guy. But that wide receiver core is about 5 or 6 guys deep. I mean, they can rotate through entire units, and I think the wide receivers are going to be good. The playmakers are going to be good on offense. The biggest question mark for me outside the quarterbacks is the offensive line.
Yeah.
He said point blank a few times that he's not comfortable with where the offensive line is right now. He's blunt. I mean, Summerall won't sugarcoat it, but that was something that was kind of hit or miss on Saturday. They had good plays, they had bad ones. They got beat by some of the first team guys, and then other plays they keep a clean pocket. So there's definitely potential, but that's a unit with, I want to say, only 1, maybe 2 returning starters from last season. The best 2 guys on that offensive line, and Jake Slaughter and Austin Barber, are gone. So there's just a lot of replacement there, and that's going to be something that hopefully gets just kind of shored up through the summer, and even in some of those non-conference games early against FAU and Campbell before you head to Jordan Hare early on in the season. But yeah, I mean, the offense is definitely playmaker heavy. It's just going to be smoothing out the edges to get that unit shored up.
Yeah, listen, I mean, you can have the 2 greatest quarterbacks in the world, but if you can't protect them, it doesn't matter. And I saw some things in that spring game. There were some 4th and 1 that they couldn't, the offense couldn't pick up. That you want to give the credit to the defense, but deep down inside, Jackson, that's a lack of depth or outstanding talent, I would say, on the offensive line. How do the Gators, in your opinion, they got time here to fix this? How do they fix this?
Yeah, I think it's just the biggest thing's gonna be gelling. I mean, that's the thing in the transfer portal era is you just got to develop that connection, and I think that's going to be seen the biggest in the offensive line and the secondary. I think the secondary is it's full of talent. But we saw on Saturdays early on in the game, the secondary was wrecking the receivers, and late in the first half, the offense rattles off 3 touchdowns in 2 minutes, just pretty much straight up from deep balls. So the secondary's got to get on the same page. I don't think it's anywhere a lack of talent. I just think you've got guys coming from different parts of the country, and secondary is a position group where it's a lot of that nonverbal communication where you have to know where your teammate is. You have to know where your coverage zone is. So those kind of things I think you'll just develop over time. I'm not seeing anywhere that's devoid of talent where they're just going to get beat, all year long. I think it's just going to be about gelling as a group. I think the front seven's really solid. I do think that, as I said, the wide receivers, the running backs, and once they figure out a quarterback, I'm not concerned about those areas too much. It's really just that O-line and secondary, and it's just about gelling. The talent is there. The skills are there. The coaches are in place as well. Really good coaching staff coming in here. Are supposed to be. And but I just think it's just going to be developing that connection and just furthering that depth. I think the spring game gave a great opportunity for some of those guys that weren't really listed as first team players to really show off, and now gives Coach Summerall and those guys a chance to really work out the rotations, work out the depth charts, and see who could work their way into the starting rotation.
Here with, excuse me, Jackson Robb on the Gators report, and this is something we're going to try to get to each and every week here moving forward, and to kind of set the stage for next fall. To wrap up the Gators spring game before we move on here, obviously, Jackson, Florida's coming off a year in which they played unbelievably brutal schedule. What's that schedule look like next year for those that don't know? And what are your expectations for this team rolling into fall camp?
Yeah, I would say this year's schedule definitely lightens up, definitely in comparison to last year. And I just think this needs to be a rebound year. This is Florida football. I think saying a bowl game is the goal is underselling it. But at this point, I think that's something that's a must, especially with the new head coach. You got to get back to that standard, back to that success. And I think this year gives them a chance. I think you're looking at a ceiling of 8, 9, maybe 10 wins if everything goes right. That might be a stretch, but as long as things don't fall apart, the schedule puts you in a good spot to, at the very least, be 6-6. The non-conference doesn't really put much challenge out there with FAU and Campbell out of the gates. There's some sneaky games at Auburn early on in the season. If you ask Nick Saban, Jordan Hare's cursed, so that's something you got to look at. But the home schedule is not too bad as well. You bring in Ole Miss, who does have Trinidad Chambliss back, so that's going to be a tough one. But you got Vanderbilt, Oklahoma as well. You go at Missouri, and then obviously Florida State on the road to end the season. But I definitely think a bowl game is more than attainable for Florida. I just think this is a season where the biggest thing for me is you got to win the games you're supposed to win. And if you drop some that you're expected to lose, so be it. But you can't have losses like USF this season. You can't have some of the losses like a 30-point loss to Tennessee like it was last year. The Gators are going to have to show that they've evolved. They're going to have to show a bigger form of physicality. And again, I think the schedule lends well to them, lends well to a younger team and one that's gelling with one another. But they're still going to have to work. It's still the SEC, and you're not going to get an easy schedule in the SEC. But luckily, the out-of-conference gives you some shots for some wins early. It's just going to be building on that when you get deeper into October and November.
All right, let's slide over to baseball. And Jackson, last year, Kevin O'Sullivan had to take a leave from the team for health reasons, returned this year. The Gators looking to make that 10th College World Series appearance. They open up a big series against Auburn in Gainesville. I believe that starts tonight. And so what is the state of the baseball team? 27-11. They're having a good year. So kind of take us through the baseball team a little bit.
Yeah, I would say this team is the most inconsistent team I've ever seen. It's just crazy because I want to say they have only one loss this year over against ranked teams. They have run it against tough schedule, but we have midweek losses to High Point, lost the series to High Point, lost the midweek game to Jacksonville, and our most recent game lost on, I believe it was Tuesday night against Bethune-Cookman. So, yeah. This team is very hot and cold. The talent's there, just the inconsistencies are a little bit alarming, just because you look at the way that college baseball does their playoffs with the pods and the kind of round robin system just to get out of the first rounds, where Florida, even if they do or don't host, you're going to have some of those mid-major teams in there. And if that's something you struggle with, you're not going to escape it the later you get in the season. So that is concerning. The good news is they play up to their opponents. So playing Auburn this weekend, who's, I believe, number 6 in the rankings right now, or at least top 10, the Tigers. That kind of bodes well the way Florida's been playing. Their bats can get hot. This team can score. Florida, they can score. It's just defensively, the pitching rotation is just up and down. There are some guys that were expected to be studs this season that have fallen short. There's guys like Aiden King who have stepped up and been exactly as advertised for the Gators out of the pen. So I think the biggest thing for them is just keep playing up to their opponents and hopefully stop playing down to your opponents. And then, they if they can just hit down the middle and stop the inconsistencies, the up and downs, then there's definitely a chance for this team to make a run. They're very talented as well, but just those midweek, mid-major losses are brutal.
They moved up to number 7 in the polls, and it's just wild. You're absolutely right. You mentioned Aiden King. O'Sullivan's going to give him a start tonight, so we'll see how he does in that role as well. So softball. I mean, I don't know if you get to many of these, but the softball team is absolutely rolling 41-5. That's pretty good in 46 games. Do you get an opportunity, Jackson? Do you go to any of these games? Like, not just, I mean, do you just, how does this work for you? What do you, how does this work?
Yeah, I mean, all the tickets are free for us. So I haven't made it out to softball yet, unfortunately, but I've been following them. So I know it's been a great season. I know Keegan Rothrock, leading pitcher, had a
Oh, yeah.
no-hitter last week. But yeah, the softball team's great. And I know I definitely want to make it out down to the stadium before the school year's over, but haven't made it out there yet. That's the thing here, too, is where my dorm is. The football and basketball arenas are right across the street. Like, if I look out the window that way, I can see both of them. Baseball and softball are 2 miles south, so those I actually have to kind of plan out going to those games and make my way down there. But yeah, no, the softball team is having a great season, and that's just been what they've been doing in recent years. It seems like, I mean, at least before I got here and even now. But I think started the year on 20 straight wins or something. They were undefeated before playing UCLA early in the year, so hopefully they go far into the summer and maybe go claim a trophy as well.
All right, that'll wrap. And then, of course, track and field. I looked. I wanted to ask you this question. I hadn't seen Rios Prude Jr. run since January. Do you know anything if he's injured or?
I haven't heard anything about Rios recently. Track and field information kind of hard to come by. You don't get the same, I guess, just word of mouth there. But I mean, I'll keep an eye out on that as well.
Yeah, Rios, of course, the Rockledge guy. All right, buddy. Love talking Gators with you, but because next week, one of the things I'm definitely going to miss not having you here is the NFL draft. You and I did our draft show, and I thought our draft show was as good as anything you got on the networks. I really did, if I must say so myself. So let's talk a little NFL draft, a little bit of NFL off season. You can never go wrong talking the National Football League. As we go into the draft next week, what are the storylines that have stuck out to you thus far this offseason?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, number one pick should be wrapped up. It should be Fernando Mendoza. I know there was a brief conversation about Ty Simpson. I don't think that'll be the case. But I think for this draft, it's just going to be, who are the steals? I mean, we're talking about the guys up top in this draft, but this draft is deep. There's a lot of talent defensively and some guys that I think are sliding in the draft that could be picked up. I mean, even looking from a Florida lens, Caleb Banks was a guy that really impressed at the combine, was kind of moving up into the top 20, but then has been dealing with some injuries, some foot injuries that's kind of dropped him towards the back half of the first round. I've seen him landing at the Patriots, which would be scary to see them load up again right after a Super Bowl and get someone like Caleb Banks on the defensive line. But yeah, I think for this draft, I think you're going to be talking a lot about the sleepers and the steals of this draft, because this isn't one that's super, super top heavy like in recent years where that top 10 is, so lucrative. I think there is talent that kind of goes deeper than just the first 5 picks. I think whoever gets Caleb Downs is going to be very lucky. I've seen him. I mean, that's incredible talent in the secondary. Former Alabama and Ohio State safety, Caleb Downs. And it's crazy to me that he's not one of those guys that's, mocked unanimously to be a top 5 pick. And that's a lot just based on the needs of the teams in the top 5 and not really needing a safety. But I think he's someone that could fall in the lap of a team that could really use him as well.
I got Downs mocked to the Cowboys at 12. Again, and the only reason I got him mocked down that far is because I, like you, am shocked at the fact that he's not considered one of those top prospects. Beyond Mendoza, I mean, the Jets, a lot of people got David Bailey taking that shot with the Jets. Arizona, maybe Arvell Reese. Jeremiah Love to Tennessee. Kind of like, I want to talk about the Buccaneers a little bit. What do you tell me what the Bucs need? What do the Bucs need going into this draft?
Yeah, I think the Bucks. It's interesting because this is the first time in a while. You're gonna see the Buccaneers without Mike Evans this season. But drafting Mika Igbukah last year, I don't think that wide receiver is their biggest concern. You lose some guys as well defensively. I think for the Bucks, it could be a best player available type situation. I think that they do have, a few different needs. They could bolster up the offensive line, the front seven as well. They have guys that I think obviously quarterback Baker Mayfield, that's written off. You don't have to worry about that. I still think wide receiver, they're fine. I don't think they're in panic mode in the first round, at least, again, with guys like Ibuka, Godwin, and some of the other playmakers they have out wide. But I think this is somewhere where they can bolster up the offensive line, or if they want, bolster up that front seven.
In my mock draft, I got him taking a cornerback
Yep.
because that's the best player I had available at the time. But at 19, I think it's 19, your Carolina Panthers. I got to ask you about your Panthers. A better season last year, obviously. I got them picking Monroe Freeling out of the tackle out of Georgia. What are your Panthers' needs?
Yeah, I would really like offensive line. I think this is the first time in a while this team is situated where they could play best player available. I've seen a lot about Kenyon Sadiq, the Oregon tight end. The Panthers really haven't had a good staple tight end since Greg Olson, so that's something that I know is kind of being floated around as an idea. Just for me though, I think also been floated another wide receiver in the first round. I don't really want us to do that. I think that this would be 3 years in a row with Xavier Legette, Tedroy McMillan, which worked out just fine. I'd rather this team worked it with the wide receiver core they have and just work elsewhere. I think offensive line, not even from a starting standpoint, but we need depth. There were a lot of injuries late in the season last year where guys had to step up who had never even had NFL reps coming into week 17, week 18, even in the playoffs. So I think offensive line depth for me is a big concern. Defensively, I think the Panthers are set. I don't think that we need to do much after spending all the money on Devin Lloyd, Jalen Phillips, and that secondary looks good. I think we could address that in later rounds. But for me, I think I would like to see offensive line or tight end. I don't really want to see another wide receiver go off the board, but it's also a position, like I said, where for the first time in a while, it could just be best player available. And if there is someone that really stands out that fell to 19, then I wouldn't be mad at us kind of reaching outside those position groups and just going and getting them.
There's this fantastic team at 14 that's not going to let Kenyon Sadiq slip down to the Panthers. By the way, I'm just telling you right now, Kenyon Sadiq will be wearing a Ravens jersey. Jackson, I don't know how much you keep up with local sports here. I know you or can keep up with local sports. I know you managed to get back and do some football. You did the Cocoa Tiger game with me. So I'm curious to get your take on what you've been able to keep up with, and any thoughts you have about what's happening here locally.
Yeah, obviously I keep up with lacrosse a lot. That's been my thing. So I know it looked like a different year this time around. I know Holy Trinity was still good. Vieira was solid, but I saw Merritt Island knocked them off at one point this year. So
Yeah.
there were some shockers there, some games that I was like, okay, didn't really go how I expect. But that's also just one of those sports that you don't really know what's going on until day one. The first games kind of come out. So it's just interesting to watch from afar after all the years of being right in it and knowing everything that's going on to just kind of just see the final scores come across my max preps, and it's like, well, I don't know what's happening, but that's not what I would have not what I would have predicted.
Yeah, and of course Ryan Schneider finally makes the
Yeah,
jump down to MCC. Nate Hooks now at Coco, and so spring football starts here this Monday is the first day of practice here for. So are you covering any high school teams up there for the spring, or is that next fall for you, or what happens?
yeah. This spring, I've also been beat writing for one of my classes for Gainesville High and Santa Fe High School. So I've been doing. I started with soccer, done some softball, did some lacrosse, just stuff like that. So I've been staying in with the high school scene as much as I can. For soccer, I went all the way to the state final four with Santa Fe to Auburndale, which I know Cocoa Beach was there as well the day after the night that I was there. But so there was a little bit of Brevard crossover. But yeah, I've stayed tapped in with high school as well.
I think it's fair, Jackson. Everybody knows you went to satellite, and I think people understand the whole
Yeah,
Cocoa Beach satellite thing. I get it. I used to love going. I used to love saying to Jackson, Jackson, I need you to go do a Cocoa Beach game for me tonight. And he go, yep. Because when
yeah,
Jackson says he would do everything, Jackson would do
I would.
everything, and he would. And you know what? He would broadcast it with there was you could not tell he was a Satellite High student if he was doing a Cocoa Beach. Speaking of Cocoa Beach, tonight here on Brevard Sports Network, you'll see them take on John Carroll Catholic for the 2A8 District Baseball Championship. And then back to lacrosse, Jackson. We had a hell of a girls' game last night here. Congratulations to the Edgewood Red Wolves girls lacrosse team. They defeated Holy Trinity last night, 9-8 in double overtime to capture the district championship back. So the FHSAA soccer release will be tomorrow lacrosse release will be tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Stay tuned to Brevard Sports Network for that. Jackson, as we get set to wrap up here on our first ever Gators report, what do you miss most about home? And you can't say the family because we know you miss the family.
Yeah, of course. No, I mean, it's fun, the big time, you could call it, doing college sports and everything, but there's something about the local scene and just kind of showing up to games and seeing people, whether that's friends, family, or even just people that know you from BSN and stuff like that. So I definitely miss the community aspect. Being up here, it's fun, but I'm meeting all new coaches again at the high school and even college level, which is, it's exciting, but it doesn't feel like, and it'll develop once I am here for more than a year, but Brevard County, you just know everybody, everyone knows you, or everyone knows somebody that knows you. So it's like a bigger pond up here in Gainesville, which is definitely fun, but you miss that hometown feel.
Wait till you get to the pond that is professional sports.
Yeah.
I mean, that pond is like two oceans combined. Jackson, of course, we're all very proud of you. And so let me ask you this. Up in Gainesville, like kind of take me through your week real quick. Take me from a Monday through a Friday.
Yeah, well, Monday is busy. I got 3 classes on Mondays, so kind of sun up to sundown. I'm not really in the room. Tuesday, got some classes, nothing too bad. 1 or 2 classes on Tuesdays. Wednesdays, I only have 1 class, so go to class, come back, just kind of hang out, fill in time in between, either at the gym, hanging out with friends, stuff like that. Thursdays, today, after this, I have my ESPN shift, so go in there, either do the radio updates, like I said, or I write beat stories. And then Fridays is my ESPN 1 class, which is basically just like a production meeting. Kind of everyone sits down, goes over their beats, what they want to write, what they're looking at for the week coming up, and then on to the weekend, which is just kind of whatever you get into.
That was kind of a trick question. So it sounds like Wednesday would be the best day to do this then, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So next Wednesday, 1 o'clock, if I don't know when your class is, but next Wednesday afternoon, stay tuned to BSM. We'll have Jackson back, and we will do our second edition of the Gators Report. Jackson, thanks so much, my friend, and man, keep going, buddy, because it'll be no time at all.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, and go Gators.
Yeah, there you go. For Jackson Robb, I'm Alan Slaughter-Zinski for the Brevard Sports Network. We'll see you tonight